would say when I left Wichita, the attitude around it was still pretty negative. I've often described it as a city with low self-esteem.
This wasn't a long-term place to live for pretty much anyone that I knew.
And anytime new people would move here, I would just be like, yeah, there's not much to do here.
The general vibe was nobody wanted to live here, and everybody complained about Wichita and how one side graduate or one side do this, I'm moving out and I'm never coming back.
It was really, Wichita sucks was kind of our mantra, and there's nothing to do here. Those were the two things you would hear on consistent repeat.
We think about how this started. So it was 14, I think about 2014, when several organizations came together. We really asked the question who is Wichita? What is our brand? And so we actually went out and did a branding study, and we asked visitors and residents really to tell us about Wichita. And what we hoped would come out of it really is a brand for Wichita. But really what came out of it was this notion that residents, Wichitans, were really hard on themselves. In fact, visitors loved us more than we loved our own town.
Wichita had a real challenge in terms of our pride, our lack of pride, and that was affecting everything from our ability to attract and retain talent to attract and retain companies.
In 2014, Wichita had a severe perception issue, both from the inside and the outside. Several consultants had been in town talking about how, if Wichita didn't get this perception issue under control, it was going to have severe impact on, our ability to recruit and retain talent.
We're actually the second highest exporter of engineering students after MIT. MIT is known for its producing an amazing number of engineering students, just as Wichita State is, but we don't necessarily have the right jobs, or it's not the right fit, or maybe they don't think they want to be in Wichita, so we're trying to change all of that to make sure we have the jobs and that this is a place those people want to stay.
Visit Wichita conducted some of those studies, and then someone that the Wichita Community Foundation retained, James Chung, also conducted some studies.
So we spoke to him about doing a community scorecard. It's a pretty common thing community foundations do to kind of look back and you gauge educational attainment, job growth, those sorts of things. And James said, we don't really do a backward look. They do what they call predictive analytics. So Chung and his business, they look forward to determine what a company is going to need to be successful in the next 10 or 15 years. So we've never done that for a community. We said, you want to give it a shot? And he said he did.
An important piece of the story that predated my involvement with Wichita Community Foundation was that I grew up in Wichita from kindergarten through 12th grade. And I realized that I'm a beneficiary of a city that was really kind and generous to my family. It was a remarkable place to grow up. So when Wichita asks anything of me, I try to say yes when I can. So they asked, how do we drive change, which is fundamentally what they're trying to do. And that's when we started going into deep discussions about, well, what if we did a much, much deeper diagnosis of what's really happening in Wichita, taking a look at what's happened in the past that shapes the present, what's happening in the present, and what are some of the things that can happen in the future. That's how the project came about, and that's why it was a very interesting time spending a lot of time back in Wichita, meeting with a lot of people, digging through ridiculous amounts of data, processing ridiculous amounts of data, to come back for some pretty major presentations to share the news, the good, bad, and the ugly about the city that helped everyone get a better understanding of where we were and what we could do.
But the real story is when you look at net migration, the number of people who come in versus the number of people who leave. And when we look at that period of time since the start of this decade, Wichita is losing people. It's flat out losing people. Compared to comp cities like Omaha is not losing people. Des Moines, which is slightly smaller than Wichita, is gaining a lot of people. Oklahoma City has been on a real tear. So as we look at net domestic migration, if you rank it among the 381 metropolitan areas in the U.S., it ranks 331. It's sort of at the bottom end of growth. So that's the challenge that we have right now is that we haven't really recovered out of that recession.
The data overwhelmingly showed that Wichita has been one of America's lowest growth cities for 2 decades now. And without growth, Wichita has not benefited from the kind of progress that's happening in the rest of the country and has not been able to provide the kind of growth and opportunity for a lot of the younger talent moving through the system. And that's a problem, and we had to put that on the table. It's not the message that we were expecting to share in our first presentation, But what we realized was we had to share it to try to help galvanize the city towards action.
James brought a reality to this city that jolted us. And it jolted us to action. And we needed to be jolted into action.
They were very disheartening. It really showed that we didn't have a lot of pride in ourselves.
And it had been bubbling up for a while. What was interesting is between 2002 and 2010, there was 2 studies done that basically said the same thing, which was, they asked a Wichitan, hey, between scale between 0 on the low side, 10 on the high side, how do you think people from outside of Wichita look at Wichita? And they'd say, well, 4. And they said, well, what do you think your neighbor would rate Wichita? And they go, maybe a 6. And they say, well, what do you think? And they'd say, well, an 8. I mean, I really like it here. So there was this thought that was really, people from the outside wouldn't think much of us, and I think my neighbor probably really doesn't like it here very much, but I kind of like it. And I think as people have been able to sit there and feel more free to be able to say that they like it here, you don't feel as isolated. And it was really interesting study for us to know that the community was feeling that way. But I think really you're seeing across the country that people want to feel connection to where they're living. And so that connection to community and feeling pride around that has become more and more important.
After we presented the first of the public presentations, there was someone in the audience that I did not know who told me later that she walked out of that presentation pretty ticked off about what we presented. She said she was questioning why someone came in to talk about Wichita's challenges bearing not really great news. And then she told me that later, as she started to think about it, she realized she could do something about it. And she started cranking. That person was Sherry Utash of the Wichita Area Technical College, which is now WSU Tech.
So I went from really not believing the information to kind of that disbelief place in your mind to realizing, I think he's right. And then that made me mad. And then that made me take action. And so it was just a whole plethora of emotions that I went through. Because I do love Wichita and I love this city and I love this community, and I want to see it be impactful and innovative and be known as one of the nation's best cities to be in.
And the various initiatives coming out of WSU Tech these days are proving to be a powerhouse in helping Wichita deal with its challenges, as well as preparing Wichita for the future.
So we started the Wichita Promise. And what we did with that was, it was a last chance scholarship opportunity. So a student comes in and they are eligible, they have to go through federal financial aid. If they're eligible for a Pell Grant, then we pay anything that the Pell Grant doesn't pay. And what we did was then we tied that back to our community, back to business and industry. And every year we say, what are the high wage, high tech, high demand jobs? And so we focus our Wichita Promise and our scholarship dollars to move people in this community into those critical jobs. And that's really what we've done. And that was, that was kind of our rally cry to what James Chung was saying.
There were more people like Sherry Utash out there, but I love that story. She wasn't happy at the start, but she did something about it. And we just need more people to do that.
And so as we were sitting there in the end talking about, okay, what are next steps? It became evident that we needed a Pride in Place campaign. But that's kind of a daunting task, right? Creating a campaign that will create pride.
There was a discussion about undertaking a large community brand campaign, similar to Keep Austin Weird or Vegas, what happens here stays here. There was discussion about we need a message like that for Wichita.
Here at the Chamber, we decided to start promoting the hashtag I Love Wichita, which our young professionals had picked out as something they thought we should all rally under.
Processes like that are often very expensive and take a lot of time. And so we wanted something that we could have an impact today. And so what better way than to, kind of start a grassroots hashtag movement. And we just started incorporating that into our marketing messages, and the Young Professionals group did the same.
Brandon Whipple first came to my attention on Twitter because he was using the hashtag, and I was like, who is this guy? He was consistently using it and has for many years.
So when we would update social media about visiting this small business or talking to this person who does really great stuff, hashtagging it with the I Love Wichita brought that back into a space that other people can see as well. And we want to encourage those stories. So not just from myself as mayor, but I want to encourage other people to do that as well. Where, what are you doing that in our community that you want to brag about? And utilizing a hashtag like I Love Wichita will actually bring that forward so that people who aren't following you on Twitter will be able to see it.
And then also the Wichita Flag, which it was beginning to make a little bit of an appearance, and we started asking questions about, well, what is this and how long has it been around?
Another friend, Lee Shiny. Lee used to run Shiny Gallery in Wichita back in the 90s and on up into the early 2000s for a time. He had a company that made front license plates, decorative license plates for cars, and we made up a gross of Wichita flag tags. We couldn't give them away. People didn't know what they were. There was just this ongoing bizarre resistance. And the fact that we couldn't give these tags away, we had a heck of a time trying to get them into one of the Kansas gift souvenir shops. They finally, after like a second or third attempt, they put it over in some corner of the store where obviously nobody was ever going to see it. But that said, I think they sold a few and then we just never took them back, and we ended up giving them away to a few people.
So when I moved back in 2002, you really didn't see the flag anywhere. There was two places that I felt like I saw it. One was every once in a while it was flying in front of Century 2, and you could see it hanging in front of the Hotel Old Town. And so I remember saying, well, what is that thing? And someone's like, oh, we have a city flag. It won a competition. And so I tried to hunt it down just because I found it so curious that we had a flag and I didn't know about it growing up.
John Rolfe is a true Wichita cheerleader. He is a champion of all things Wichita. The story goes that he took the flag on a city-to-city trip, which is something the Chamber does once a year. We pick a community where we can learn best practices and take a group of city leaders. He took a city flag on a trip years ago, and when he displayed it at a podium, no one else there knew what it was.
We took a whole group, about 60 leaders, to Pittsburgh to look at their turnaround story, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so I took the flag, and I was chair of Visioneering at the time, which hosted the trip. And so every room that we went into, I'd hang the flag from the podium and say, hey, we got to stake our claim that Wichita was here and that this is Wichita territory in Pittsburgh, just to have some fun with it. But it really helped other people. There's a lot of people that had no idea about the flag, and so to hear the story and to understand the meaning that was designed into it, I don't know that it was connected at all with the flag reemerging, but it was interesting just as you were seeing people first have contact with the idea of the flag and seeing the flag, that there was an immediate sense of connection and ownership, and that you could tell it was something that people thought was cool and was unique to Wichita and really interesting, and they were ready to embrace it, not kind of be like, well, that's kind of weird, or push it over to the side.
The Chamber is really the driver behind the flag, the Wichita Flag, Twitter and Facebook page.
I am proud to be part of the two-person team that manages the Wichita Flag social media accounts and the I Love Wichita movement. Every day we post content, share things that Wichitans, very creative Wichitans from around the world, are sharing with us.
We started the accounts in 2015 and did a lot of kind of building that first year. We populated the accounts ourselves. There wasn't a lot of user-generated content that we could repurpose. But fast forward to today, and the Wichita Flag gets tagged in more things than can be reposted. And just when we thought that we had seen it all, Wichitans would come up with something else. Like, Wichitans are very passionate, very creative, and so I would say it probably took about a year when we started seeing that user-generated content. But once we did, it just took off.
Just over this past decade specifically, it went.
I think the very first time I saw it was on a pin, like a lapel pin. And you know, the flag's been around since the 30s. So this wasn't new, but there's something about that flag. I mean, it's bright colors, it's just really, you know, it's attractive.
Both Lucinda's and the workroom had some options available early on, inexpensive ways for people to get involved, whether that was a pin or a patch or a sticker, and that was huge.
And then I give Janelle absolute credit for getting all the flag swag all over town. She was literally the first adopter, not an early adopter, the first adopter to have that available in a retail space.
When Janelle started putting stuff in her shop, I went, oh my God, this is fantastic. And that's how I met her, is somebody said, oh, you need to go in there and see this stuff. There's Wichita stuff in there. What? And I walked in and went, holy cow, this is great.
We're actually a custom sewing workroom. That's the kind of the bolts of our business. In addition, you know, I just personally have a passion for all things local, so have incorporated things like local art and stuff. And my original location, which was on Douglas Avenue, used to look out on the previously was Abode Venue, and they were one of the only places in the city that was actually flying the Wichita flag. And so looking out my store, out my windows, and could see this flag flying every day. So we started using my fabric remnants from my sewing workroom and just printing the Wichita flag image on it and creating patches and just selling them for $1 with a piece of paper that told the history about our flag, just to like start sharing it and communicating. And it was just interesting, like how people just immediately gravitated towards it and were hungry for it. And so from a patch, we started carrying coffee mugs, and then from coffee mugs to t-shirts, and people were just eating it up. For several years, our kind of job, if you will, in spreading of the Wichita flag and things was to really educate people. And like I said, talk about the history of it, that this flag has been around since the 30s, and you know, this and that. And in turn, it was interesting to see the responses we got from the community. Everybody just wanted to share with us their story of Wichita and be like, oh, so I just moved here, or I've lived here for 40 years, and my grandkid, you know, and it just became like this centering point of communication to talk about our city.
She had revived the Wichita flag and brought it back into our community by selling, you know, funny shirts, you know, funny sayings on it that, you know, displayed the flag and displayed where we were from. So I definitely have noticed a lot of change, and I contributed to that, as well as, you know, making Wichita into a place where, you know, young families and young people want to come and thrive.
That's when I started seeing the change in Wichita. Around 2014, 2015 is when I really started seeing a difference, like around the time I graduated high school. I started seeing like stickers on cars that had the Wichita flag on it, and prior to that I didn't even know that we had a city flag, and I started talking to friends from other cities all across the US and being like, they thought it was weird that we even knew what our city flag was, because people from like Oklahoma City and like cities bigger than us don't know what their city flag is. Then as I got into college, I saw someone with a sticker that said like, Wichita is not boring, and I was like, you're right, Wichita isn't boring. Like, we're way cooler than people think we are.
You know, honestly, what brought me back to Wichita was the love for Wichita. My family missed it. I had my daughter, she was born out away from Wichita, and we wanted to be back by our family, by our friends, and my husband and I always say, just back where life made sense, you know? Wichita was just such a great place. We felt like it was a great place to raise a family, and so we wanted to make sure that our daughter was raised with kind of the Wichita values and morals.
Before I moved away, I guess I was younger, so I didn't really notice the sense of like Wichita Pride, and like the flag wasn't as huge of a thing. I feel like in the last 5 to 10 years, that's really kind of blossomed here in the city, and people are proud of being from here, even if no one else knows where it is.
I am. I grew up here. Lived here my whole life, and then moved away for college, worked in Texas for about 5 years, and just moved back about 9 months ago. So I haven't done like adult life here, I guess, but I think there's just like a lot of Wichita pride that I didn't fully understand or know, but I feel like everyone's really proud of Wichita. I had some friends come in from Texas recently and they were like, your city like loves itself. And I'm like, I know. And I didn't realize that until I moved home. So I think that's really cool.
Definitely. Now there's the flags everywhere and everybody's got their t-shirts and their mugs. I've got my own mug right here. Generally so much more positive and people getting excited about being from there. And there's just these little things that are changing, like food trucks became a thing, and for a long time that was just not a part of Wichita's culture, even as everybody else in the country was doing it. And I think little things like that just gradually made it cooler and cooler, and everybody's attitude started to shift.
I would say in our return back to Wichita, we noticed there was a growth in just pride and almost defense of Wichita. So I had heard, just so many people who had said, I'm leaving, I'm getting up out of here, I want to see something different, I want a bigger city. And it was funny because those people had left around the same time that I did, and they were all back as well. And they're like, you know what? It's not bad. The traffic is great. I can get anywhere I need to. We have all the amenities. And so I just felt like there was a lot more people who were sticking up for Wichita, going to bat for Wichita when we came back. And then when we saw the Wichita Flag resurgence and the promotion behind that, that just really sparked more of a reason to support and big up Wichita.
Yeah, I would say, the biggest thing, I know a lot of people talk about this, is the Wichita Flag. I know it's been around a while, but for me, you explore the city and you see it everywhere. You see it on bumper stickers, you see it on sides of buildings. And when I was getting married, a lot of our photos, we wanted to center around the Wichita Pride. We took pictures at the Keeper of the Plains in downtown Wichita, which is iconic here in the city. We went to every mural we could find and took pictures there. And so you realize that the community really is what built that up and made us more proud of it. So I think that because we've become more proud, I would say it's a testament to what the city has done, and the amount of people talking about all those different places made us really want that to be where we took our photos. And we even took our maternity photos at the Keeper of the Plains. So we even went back there because we realized how deep those roots are and how important the city and culture is. And I think the city itself, the community, really built that up for us.
And then you see development in downtown, and you see people wanting to be engaged in the community, whether it's Riverfest or volunteering or new things coming up, whether it's pop-up park in downtown or gallery alley or NAFSCO Park getting redone or those kind of downtown development things or these new events coming up. I think people started to see that Wichita is not this place that is like any other city. It's very different. It has this quality of life that you don't find other places that still maintains that low cost of living factor.
And almost every year I hear somebody say, well, it's probably about ready to peak. And I think, well, maybe, but then I'm just blown away when I drive down a neighborhood and somebody's painted the flag across the front of their house or on the steps of their house. I mean, I'm just blown away.
I didn't do it as a bragging point. I did it because I thought it'd be neat, and for people who I meet and greet like you, it's a conversation piece, and then it allows me then to get to meet more people, and some of them said that well, that inspires me. I want to go do something now. So I hope they did. I don't know if they did, but that'd be pretty neat to see that kind of that paying it forward thing.
We talk about why the Pride is so important. Like just in our role at Visit Wichita, we have the opportunity to bring people to Wichita that have never been here before. Every month we're bringing in travel writers, and again, what happens is they go out and write about their experience. But when they're here and they're meeting with a local business owner that is so excited about their town, they go back and write on it. And we've hit thrill list. We've been a surprising foodie community. All of this from people that have come here to see it. So when we have Pride, it can't help but spill over to all the folks that come here, and then they go back and share the word. And ultimately, that's going to encourage somebody to come and visit, or somebody to come to go to school here, or somebody to come to live, or even move their business here.
I guess the clearest way that I can explain it is that Wichita has not yet loved itself to death. And it's happening around the country. San Francisco, mission accomplished. It loves itself to death. All the locals from 20 years ago are out. But Wichita is starting to love itself, but it hasn't loved itself to death yet. So I just feel like Wichita still has a slice of that authentic America where if you ask somebody how you doing, they'll actually answer you. I don't think my life would be any less interesting in Wichita, than New York.
We ran 3 waves of heavy analysis between the start and finish. There was probably a 3-year span between those. And just to look at one of the areas where we ran analysis at the start and then later in, we reran those flash polls again in 2018 to compare how Wichita was feeling compared to 2016. And it was so cool what we found in that. When we looked at the percentage of Wichitans who said they were optimistic about Wichita's future, that figure had doubled in 2 years. Between 2016 and 2018, people were feeling much more optimistic.
Only 20% were optimistic in 2016 about the future of the city. That's frightening. We've almost doubled that. We have moved the needle. Wichita has done a great job at changing internal perception.
Because first off, everyone had to get comfortable. There are issues, we have to acknowledge it. They're real, but some people said they could do something about it. And that became contagious. It became visible. There were people making things happen and making things better. And so twice as many people felt optimistic about the future of Wichita compared to 2 years prior.
We're very pleased that the studies have shown a dramatic improvement in the perception people have of our own community. It all happened because of pride and partnerships and just passion. People are so passionate about this community, and when good things started to happen, when the Shockers started doing so well, and people took a lot of pride in that, when we began to see so many things happening downtown and new breweries, new eateries, all kinds of things like that, all those things just kind of started instilling more pride in people, and they were ready. They were ready to rally around something.
So you think about the last 10 years and the movement, you think about the Shockers, you think about the NCAA, all these things are building up, and now all of a sudden we have a flag and we can all come together. I think we needed the momentum, we were ready for the flag, and now the momentum is just carrying us forward.
So I don't think it was any, where you can really track one person or one group or one movement even saying we're now going to be prideful of Wichita. I think it's more people who are doing it more brought out that pride that was already there, brought that more to the surface.
I don't think that any one thing can be given credit for all of the growth in Wichita that has happened in the last 5 years. I think it was a combination of timing. There were a lot of great things already going on in Wichita, the great things happening at WSU, the great things happening downtown. So we had a lot of momentum, and so the flag was able to come in and unify us all and propel us to continue that momentum. So no, I don't think there was any one thing. I think it was a lot of people working together, a lot of people doing great work that contributed to the pride that we are now all benefiting from.
I think the flag is amazing, and I think it has been a great symbol for people to really easily adopt to feel part of something bigger than yourself. But I think Wichita Pride is not a flag, a team, a statue, a t-shirt. It's so much bigger than that. And I think we as Wichitans have this collective tenacity to just rise to the challenge and say, we refuse to accept the fate that people say we have on the back of our city, whether it's, James Chung cast a very dark shadow on our city in terms of what our future is going to look like. And so many people are like, no, I don't want that to happen. I love this community. I love the people that are here, and just said, no, we're going to figure this out. We're going to do it our own way. And I think there's this collective independence that people just want to do things their own way and refuse to accept fate.
And so it's awesome, to see people wearing the socks or see the pins, the t-shirts, see it in businesses, that people feel proud to be a part of this community, and in saying that they're proud and believe in where it's going. And so it's great to have a rallying cry, and I feel like it's helped a lot of us believe we have a foundation to build on right now, and we need to not waste this, because you never have any idea how long it's going to last.
I hope that pride continues to grow, but also deepens. That I love flags. But it's not just about, you put a flag on something and that's going to make it a success. That we ask these really hard questions like, how can we get a more diversified economy so that when there's another, short-term crisis in the aviation industry, it doesn't cripple us or doesn't make us worry we're going to lose 2,500 of these highly trained, fantastic employees, that we have a broader base of that. So the pride grows, but it's beyond the surface level of what our t-shirt says.
When we think about visitors, it's important that we invest in our community. And we talk about investing in the riverfront, because if you build a place where people want to visit, then you build a place where people want to live. And if you build a place where people want to live, you build a place where people will have to work. And if you build a place where people have to work, you build a place where businesses have to be. And it's all cyclical. So it's important that we continue to invest and build and create this incredible destination, because we'll all win.
I hope to see it only continue to grow and sustain, and that people will stay excited about Wichita. I hope that the momentum continues. I think that there are a lot of things going on in our community and in Wichita right now that we have great opportunity to make our mark and leave a legacy for future generations. And I think the flag is the perfect rally symbol to do that under.
By talking about Wichita in a way that I think is accurate, that showing off what we have, kind of suppressing a little bit of, I think, that Midwestern hospitality where you don't really brag about what you have, you want to stay humble. I'm not sure if we need to stay humble about how great Wichita is anymore. This is our opportunity to really show off our city.
I really believe you have to have the people. I think the people are the key. And so I'm excited about the pride and joy that people have in Wichita. I'm excited about the future of this city and where it's going. But I do have to say, we have to keep our foot on the pedal. We cannot quit. We have to have a lot of momentum, a lot of energy to move this city forward to where it will be that place that we all want it to be.
So there's a sense of motion, but I think when I talk to younger people, they still want to see more motion, they want to see more speed. And so I think if we don't continue to lean in and push, you have a danger of seeing that pride fizzle. And so it's incumbent upon us as a community to make sure that we are doing everything we can to have this sense of motion, this sense of progress, this sense of investment, so that when young people are looking at this community saying, do I really want to invest my life here the next 20 years? They're seeing that the community is saying, yeah, we want you here and it's going to be a cool and wonderful place to live the next 20 years.
You can make a difference here, whether it's volunteering for an organization or you see a need in the community, you can fill it. You can step up and say, what can I do to help? And I would love to see more locals realize the difference and the power they have to change the city. And as a young professional, that excites me because I see the change happening and I don't want to miss it. I have this amazing opportunity to, not just in my role, but as any young professional has this amazing opportunity to be part of this evolution.
I know I owe Wichita a lot, and I hope in my own little ways I can help nudge some progress forward. Part of the reason why I want to do this video is I hope this video is just another means to spur other people to say, hey, I can do something about this. I can make this a better place. I can go out and find joy in doing it and sharing it with others. And if that happens, that's a wonderful thing.
But